and welcome to MindFuel Moments. Today I'm joined by Jane, who is our Chief Human Resources Officer. Welcome, Jane. Thanks for getting involved with the series and joining me in June to celebrate Pride Month. Now, we work for a technology company, so we're used to hearing a variety of acronyms on a near daily basis. And to that end, I have to ask, how often have you sat in a meeting where someone uses an acronym that you don't really understand, and rather than asking them, you smile and think, I should really know what that means, but I don't?
Yeah, many times.
And the reason I mention this is I think sometimes we can be afraid to ask a question about a software acronym. So asking about terminology that references something that's deeply personal to an individual can make people feel really uncomfortable and nervous. And I think not being afraid to ask those questions and to gain the understanding that we need to participate in the conversation will really help to alleviate any nervousness around the topic and also to encourage authenticity and vulnerability. So when we talk about LGBTQ+, I think a lot of the time people aren't quite sure what that means, and sometimes they are afraid to ask. And I don't know whether, Jane, you feel that that's something that you've experienced in your time as well?
So it is a bit of a minefield. I do appreciate that. But I think my view is if you don't ask the questions, you won't learn. So there's nothing wrong in asking.
Absolutely. And obviously you've said about asking the questions, and I think Pride gives people a great opportunity to ask those questions. So I wanted to ask you, obviously, both from a professional perspective, but also personally, what does Pride mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, for me, so I've got friends and colleagues that I've worked with that are part of the LGBTQ community. And I've always found with the people that I know, this is my personal experience, those individuals want to be known for who they are, their experiences, what they do, rather than just be labelled with their sexual orientation. So I think that's the first thing. It's getting to know somebody for who they are, rather than just what their sexual orientation is. That's number one. I think the other area I've been involved in specifically around Pride is both at work and in my social life. So company I worked for previously set up employee resource groups, and they were really focused around what they considered at the time minority groups. So we had a women's network, a Black employees network, and we also had a Pride network. I think it really depends on the individuals that are involved in that. It's a very personal thing, and I think the group that formed the Pride team really focused on what we just talked about, dispelling myths, and getting people to have a conversation and not feel like they were going to say the wrong thing. So their focus for a number of years was really around educating and opening up the conversation. They became very successful, and I think that was because of the passion of the people involved in it. One of the things that really shocked me when I went through some of their education processes is that 48% of the trans community have at some point considered suicide. And it wasn't until I learned that and learned a little bit more about how people feel that really made me think this is an area we really need to focus on. So that group eventually ended up getting the company to sponsor Pride in Manchester as a corporation, which I thought was a fantastic achievement.
Yeah, that is an absolutely fantastic achievement. And so obviously you've talked a bit about what it means to you. You've talked a bit about your kind of previous experience working with companies and how they've approached it. But can I just ask, in the context of IFS, why is it important?
Okay, I think it's one word, which is inclusivity. At IFS, we know that diverse groups of employees make for better business. That level of collaboration, listening to views and opinions from people from different backgrounds globally makes a massive difference. We're really fortunate that the work groups and the teams that we have at IFS typically are global, so you will have people on different time zones in different countries with different beliefs, different stages of their lives. And my view is that that inclusivity drives the right behaviours. And statistics show that teams make better business decisions by up to 87% if they're diverse. So it's It's good for business, but I also think it's a really collaborative and community spirited environment to work in. And we're really fortunate we do have that at IFS.
Yeah, I agree entirely. It's one of the things I always say is it's the culture that for me makes IFS a great place to work. So we've talked a bit about obviously what it means and why it's important. So I just want to ask, what are we doing about it? What are we doing about it from a business perspective as IFS?
Okay, thank you. So this month we're using Pride as an opportunity to raise awareness, and that's an awareness of allyship and also some supportive actions, so we can ensure that everyone at IFS makes it a welcoming place to be. We've invited colleagues to include their pronouns on their email signature if they feel comfortable, to normalise the conversation around gender. I think it is really, really healthy that we open up that conversation. Even if someone asks the question, what's that next to their email signature? What does that mean? If you go and click on mine, it will take you to a site that actually explains it, which I think is really important. Again, it's about education. When I hire new employees to the organisation, diversity and inclusion is really all on the agenda now. People will ask me the question, what's your diversity and inclusion policy? What do you do at IFS? You know, I'm really proud of our diversity statistics, but you know, there's always room for improvement as far as I'm concerned. My view is we should be inviting people to participate in the conversation, not feel uncomfortable about offending someone or saying the wrong thing, and using the opportunity to dispel some of the myths or unknowns. Because you can go and Google anything, but I think having a conversation about it in a little bit more, you get different insights and different views, which I think is really important. You know, at the end of the day, we're all human beings and everyone deserves that level of respect. One of my team, an HR business partner in the HR team at IFS, Kirsty Buck, has written a superb blog, which you can find the link to at the top of this MindFuel webcast, which gives an insight into the LGBTQ plus community. And it's done in a very insightful, but also a very sensitive way. So I would really, really encourage you to take a look at that, read a little bit more about it and educate yourself and start conversations. That would be my ask.
Thank you, Jane. Thanks so much. And as Jane said, we will put a link above this video to Kirsty's blog post. Do go and read it because it is an absolutely fantastic blog post. It's brilliant in terms of its insight. And Kirsty, as I say, is a wonderful colleague, and I really, really appreciate the time that she takes to talk to me about things and explain things so that I understand them, and makes me feel entirely comfortable about it as well. So it really is fantastic and worth a read. On behalf of myself, on behalf of Jane, thank you ever so much for taking the time to watch this episode, and we will see you the same time next week. Bye.